Elizabeth Lanning is a local person, born in Maryland, in Tacoma Park, educated in this area, the daughter of a pilot, the daughter of a Rotarian and a pilot, and the granddaughter of a pilot as well. So it's Elizabeth has gone off to the Philippines on a project that she calls Project Propel, and she will explain that event, that project to you. It's quite fascinating. Really, yeah. I heard Elizabeth speak at the Olney Rotary Club, where her father, by the way, her father, James Fanning, was Lanning, was a member of this club for quite some time. So many of you may remember James Lanning. So let me, without further ado, introduce Elizabeth Lanning, the founder and CEO of Project Propel in the Philippines.
So as Bob mentioned, born and raised Tacoma Park, Silver Spring area. This is my stomping ground. So I'm very excited to be back in this area. I've been living in the Philippines for 10 years. I thought it would only be 2, and somehow it became 10. And part of the reason it became 10 is because of Project Propel. I went to the Philippines to study my Master's of Public Health, where I got a very good, rich, hands-on experience. When we talked about maternal child health, the midwives are like, forget the books, sit next to me. We're doing cervical cancer screenings. You're on board. And it was this integrated approach that I got pulled into. When it came to my dissertation, I went to this riverside community, and there were a whole slew of problems. Children didn't have shoes, evidence of worms, the bloated stomach. I'm not going to project what this community needs. I would like to do a proper needs assessment and have them tell me what's the issue in their community. What are the problems, the health issues in their community? And after a series of needs assessment, it was very clear that the most preventable, changeable health issue was malnutrition. So that was the stemming of the first eco garden that we call today, which was originally a malnutrition risk reduction program, but it was using nutrition sensitive agriculture, urban gardening to increase the community's intake and nutrition. It's a bit more though, because I am passionate about health promotion. While we're in there, let's talk about the prevalence of malnutrition. What is undernutrition? What is non-communicable diseases, and how do we prevent them? So we do also do a series of health education, and we use the model of behavior change. Once everybody has filled with that information of how they can, change the course of their, if they're predestined to hypertension or diabetes, how to change that through informed decisions. The eco garden becomes that reinforcing, that community component of reinforcing those new informed beliefs. And so we use the behavior change model. So without any further ado, we are a registered 501c3 here in this, not here, but in the state of Maryland, we're registered, as well as the SEC in the Philippines. We do operate 5 programs that I'll get into, but we are an international organization, and we're practicing an integrated and holistic approach to development. And if you want to, this is the main point though here is Project Propel promotes the entire health spectrum, from the individual to the community to the health of our planet. And when I get into the programs, you'll see that ecology is very much part of our sustainability plan for each program. So our mission is to enrich vulnerable populations through education, health promotion, and sustainable livelihood opportunities while nurturing respect for our earth. Now, these are the key impact areas. We work with nutrition sensitive agriculture, health promotion, improved health access, women's empowerment, water sanitation and hygiene, environmental stewardship. We talk about the principles of environmental stewardship and sustainable livelihood. So we really focus on health, education, and livelihood. We have 5 programs: eco gardens, eco farms, and I'll tell you a little bit, eco wings and eco toilets, which I think I'm most excited about, actually. So the eco gardens is teaching families in cities how to grow their own vegetables, eat nutritiously, and improve their health. Eco wings is empowering women to create and use environmentally conscious products while providing a stable income. That's all menstrual pads. Through vocational training, teaching a group of women how to sew and how to make reusable menstrual pads. I could honestly speak easily an hour for each of these. So I do want to allow time for questions as well. But I'm very passionate about each of these programs. Eco Farms works with indigenous communities to help livelihoods through organic principles of vegetable gardening. And Eco Toilets is an all-in-one sustainable water sanitation and hygiene wash station. So the eco gardens really stemmed from my dissertation, and people saw that it was a way for women's empowerment, added nutrition in times of crisis when we've had fires, or in the case of COVID, when President Duterte then shut down the borders in Manila. It was food security. So I could go on and on about community gardening and all the benefits, but for food security as well as added nutrition, it's been wonderful. And what happened is the neighboring barangays or villages said, hey, we like this. We'd like one too. And so that is actually how Project Propel got started, was very organically communities seeing something good in one community and saying, hey, we want that too. And then having to figure out how to okay, well, we got to register and get this thing going to keep up with the demand. The Eco Wings became a livelihood through vocational training. And I'm going to just pause on this for 1 second. I'm going to use an example of a woman named Emmy. And Emmy was, if you think of these homes that are together, and it's really like a rabbit hole. If you think of Alice in Wonderland, and you go through this rabbit hole, and you go through 50 meters, and it opens up to these makeshift homes where it's maybe 4 stories high of makeshift homes. And Emmy spent most of her time just doing laundry and going through a very typical female role in these barangays. And when I started doing the health promotion series with the first Eco Garden, I said, who would be a good president? Well, the community will point and tell you who the natural leader is. And they pointed to Emmy. Turns out Emmy is an incredible leader. And I have taken her to my Rotary group in Manila. And she's an outstanding spokesperson. She's incredible. And Emmy, later I found out, has a background in sewing. I said, well, how would you like to be part of a Eco Wings making menstrual pads, reusable menstrual pads? And today, Emmy is the lead seamstress of the Eco Wings program. Someone who's very used to being on the beneficiary side. She's getting paid to go to other women's groups and teach them how to sew. She's getting put up in hotels and having her food accommodated for as a teacher. To me, that's my payment. I don't need anything else except for seeing people empowered and leading, taking control of their health, taking care of their families, their economic situation. That to me, that's the satisfaction. And if we can work on this empowerment, this human empowerment, and at the end of the day, if they forget that we help them get there, all the better. We've done children's books, and the kids know that they wrote a book and published it. And these incredible women started a small business that's theirs. And so we're really trying to do this integrated approach, holistic approach, where we're not finding one thing. We're taking every community as its own system, as its own thumbprint, and having them tell us what the ailments and what the problems are in their community, and being part of the circle, becoming part of the solution. When they're part of the solution, they take absolute ownership of when we do these things. And you know, I know Emmy and I know all the members, their names, their grandkids. You know the whole system, you know the nuances in their life and things that are, and it's this type of approach. I grew up under the wing of ADRA, which is a quite large NGO, and working with other larger NGOs like World Vision. And it was those approaches that honestly, I love it and I continue to stand by it. But I kept on noticing that there has to be something that's more human. One example is my dad dragged me to Ghana at 18 to do a needs assessment, and we were unloading this 40-foot container of medical supplies. We went to this one community and we had the women tell us that they need paracetamol and things for, you know, dealing with the children when they're sick at home, like home remedy type medicines. Then the men said, hey, we need seeds so that we can generate crops and a livelihood. And then noticing that we have a 40-foot container full of medical supplies, dental supplies, equipment, none of which met the need. And just little by little, getting to the heart of the matter, listening to communities, listening to the individual to find out actually what are the needs. And we're not going to project what we think people need anyway. So we're currently in the Philippines. Recently, we've expanded the eco toilets, composting toilets to Nepal. A brief background is since 2020, we've been working very closely with the Maniday tribe in Camarines Norte, Bicol, Philippines, and doing more nutrition sensitive agriculture, but using the indigenous wisdom and principles of organic agriculture. And as we were doing that program, we realized that a lot of these communities have been living in this land for 30 plus years with no proper sanitation in place. There's cobras in the environment. We've come across several that I wish I could undo those memories, but there are cobras in the environment. There are no lights in place. So we've worked with partners to ensure solar lighting. And we've put in these Clivus Multrum, which is a Swedish designed composting toilet. So it actually complements the eco farms. Everybody, even in my own home, we're using a Clivus Multrum composting toilet. People wonder why our bananas are so healthy. And it's an added resource for the eco farms. And it also is safe, especially for women going out in the middle of the night. It's a safety issue too. So that is actually a program that stemmed during COVID and has become one of my most exciting initiatives. And so we were working with ADRA Nepal to get that going in the southern part of Nepal, Sirlahi. And we have plans to replicate the eco gardens in Nepal. But yeah, here's a little bit about the eco gardens, and you'll see also the sustainable development goals that are tied to each of our programs. But it's really added nutrition and food security. One thing that we're doing with Rotary, and my father is a longtime Rotarian, he encouraged me, he was always dragging me to Rotary meetings. And when I was a student at Washington Adventist University in Tacoma Park, he got me quickly into the Rotaract. And so I started as a Rotaract member. And then as soon as I got to the Philippines, became a charter member of Bagong Sandigan. And so I have been active not only personally in Rotary, but I see the possible partnerships. We've had grants from the Kensington Silver Spring. They gave us $20,000. We were able to do 3 eco gardens in Metro Manila with that. So we have partnered with monetary gifts, but we also, the current eco farm that they're doing, eco garden in Metro Manila, is the Rotary Club of Makati. And they're saying, well, if you need help with the construction of the eco fence, let us know. And we have had volunteers. They have taken on the feeding aspect. So when we do our 10 health modules and health promotion, they say, you know what, we'd like to be part of feeding the children and the mothers, and they've taken that on. So we have actually partnered with Rotary in almost all of our eco garden initiatives in Metro Manila. I'm here today because I actually would like to bring some of these initiatives to the Washington DC area. Met with someone who is running for city council on Monday about maybe doing one through a grant program in Montgomery County. But I'd like to take this model and apply it right here in my home. And I see the benefits of community gardening. I see how it can also be a catalyst and a bridging mechanism where where we're dealing with very vulnerable populations. Yet sometimes the very wealthy household that the gardens are just outside say, you know what, I like gardening too. Can I be a member? And bringing, it can also be a peace building initiative. So that's one thing is I love the Philippines. It's been home for me for 10 years. I'm looking at coming back and now applying these right here at home. This is the eco farms that I mentioned, working with the Money-Day tribe as well as the Aita tribe just north of Manila. And again, it's empowering because they do have indigenous wisdom and they are using organic fertilizers, organic pesticides. They are using African night crawler worms for vermicast and making a good amount of money from it. It's a livelihood. But we're also trying to empower them and so that the community at large sees the Money-Day tribe as leaders in organic principles of farming. And so that's been a really exciting initiative. And then the eco toilets wash program that I mentioned, now in Nepal as well. And it's more than just a toilet. It's an all-in-one wash where we use the Sawyer water filtration system. We teach, one of our program assistants is part of the Money-Day tribe, and she's teaching in Money-Day the children the importance of hand washing, drinking water. It's devastating just in the time that I've been living among the Money-Day tribe, how many children under the age of 5 have died from completely preventable diseases such as chickenpox and mostly dysentery, just from contaminated water. And they think that, you know, if you put the rocks and the stones along the river and it settles, that's good for drinking. Or there are lots of springs and they'll drink straight from the spring without the filter. So I'm actually really proud of the team. Just in the last couple of months, through a partnership with Ripple Effect, they were able to distribute 1,500 water filtration systems like this, the Sawyer water filtration, where they can go and they can put it in the spring or they can put it in the river itself. You can honestly, you can filter urine if you had to. They're really good Sawyer filters. But they just did that, partnering with the local government, getting those distributed. This is also the Eco Wings. And one of the things that we did, honestly, based off of Tom's Shoes, and most people are familiar with Tom's Shoes, is buy one, give one. And we thought, hey, that's really nice. And one of my board members had just met with Tom's Shoes and said, you know what, let's apply that to the Eco Wings. And so not only is it a livelihood, and this is Emmy here that I mentioned, not only is it a livelihood, we buy one, give one, and they have dedicated that all of the indigenous women and girls that are menstruating be given these menstrual pads, Eco Wings, they call them. And now the Money-Day tribe, there's 4,000 Money-Day and Camarines Norte. I can tell you, none of them have to buy sanitary napkins because of the Eco Wings livelihood. And one of the things that I did just before coming back home is have the entire group, and they were able to meet the Eco Wing members, and they stood up and said, thank you, because now none of our women and girls have to buy sanitary napkins. If we have 50 pesos, we can actually spend it on rice and, you know, ulam, which they call like something you add on rice, instead of sanitary napkins. Not to mention that it's the 5th polluter in ocean waste is the menstrual pads. So that was something, again, it's that empowerment aspect where women, the Eco Wings felt like they had done something for their fellow Philippine community. We are fundraising, and there's a number of ways that you can get involved. Actually, we welcome creativity. So if there's something that you think that you could get involved either as a Rotary group at the individual level. If you have a school or church or something that you're connected to that might be interested in getting involved, I'm here, and I'm also I'm welcoming all opportunities to connect. So please reach out at admin@projectpropel.org. There's a lot more I could say, but if anybody has any questions about, yes, go ahead.
Apart from noting that my brother's a pilot who lives in the Philippines part-time with his wife from the Philippines, the question was, if you're composting human waste, how do you avoid parasite transmission? And with respect to eco wings, how do you clean them so that they are sanitary upon use?
Okay, and I'll start with the eco wings. So there is this pasador concept where you have your period panties. A lot of people don't actually buy sanitary napkins, and the idea of doing your laundry. Everybody does laundry. I haven't hardly seen a washing machine in the Philippines. So you're doing laundry by hand. And so I can tell you what they do, and I can also tell you what I do. Is after you use a pad, you soak it in detergent, and you just put all of your pads there, and then you wash it by hand. It's very easy, and it takes a couple hours to dry, especially if it's full sun. One thing I can tell people too, because when you really have to budget, that's part of, every woman menstruates. It's kind of inconvenient enough that we menstruate once a month. The fact that we would have to pay for it just makes matters worse. So when I tell people between the Diva Cup and the Eco Wing, I haven't spent a cent on my period in 15 years, people actually are in disbelief, because that's something that they're really having to budget. That's the thing. So it's not an issue washing the Eco Wings. As far as keeping parasites with the eco toilets are preventing the spread of parasites. So the open defecation is practiced all throughout. It's something that we're really coming across. And when we were doing the eco farm, this is a solution. The eco toilets is a solution from the contamination of vegetables and whatnot. So what you do is, after you use the eco toilet, you take rice hulls and you put a scoop of rice hulls, as much as needed. And then with a little bit of OHN, which is a natural pesticide, and African night crawlers, you can actually, through 6 months, it takes about 6 months to a year for the human manure to fully decompose, and you can put it on fruit trees. So we discourage the use of human manure for vegetables. There are groups like Soil Haiti that do, but for safety reasons, we just bury it under the jackfruit trees and the trees on the eco farm. Yeah.
So are the reusable pads similar to the reusable diapers that you see nowadays?
Yeah, so they're actually now making, because of demand, the eco wings have eco liners. They have now made diapers, a prototype that they designed, just basically looking at one model that was in the Philippines from China. And they said, okay, there's nobody in the Philippines making this, so we're going to make it. And they're selling them online. So yeah, the eco diapers it's the same thing. To get that plastic out of, especially in the environment that we're working, which is just gorgeous, pristine, rich jungle. And then you hate to see a pile of diapers or pads and stuff. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to bring it back home to DC, because in America, we also have a lot of people who have malnutrition, not
Right.
in the Philippines.
Right.
I was wondering if you would comment on meat replacement, things like Beyond Meat or Impossible Meat, and whether that's a good, healthy substitute, and whether that is something can be incorporated in your system, or how people should incorporate that in the future.
Okay, good question. So as far as I know, Project Propel is the only plant-based organization. And it's actually in our handbook. And so that means that we don't frown upon our employees and people eating meat, but while we're there and while we have a Project Propel event and inside the Project Propel office, we are a meat-free zone. And the reason of that, and when we go out and have a meal, then it becomes a centerpiece of conversation. Health becomes the centerpiece. So we've gone out with all the tribal association, and you have all these tribe members that would think, oh, you're being invited to dinner, so this is going to have meat. But when it has absolutely no meat, that becomes a conversation for health. We promote a plant-based diet, and I'm not used to Beyond Burger and these meat substitutes necessarily. Getting away from anything processed, whether it's meat or Beyond Meat, I think is the best way. If you can see it, I'm actually on a personal level reacting because I've cut out sugar, I've cut out processed foods. And so even if I have the slightest processed food from, Beyond Meat, I react to it. So I think it's a better alternative. Getting people to grow and see what they're eating, I think is ideal. And that's what we promote. Yeah, I hope I answered your question somewhat.
Could you expand on the health benefits that you've seen in these communities and maybe also the cost savings?
Yeah. So we do health challenges, and a lot of times we'll get like donated cell phones, and cell phones are a hot commodity, and saying, okay, well, we're going to do a 1 month health challenge, and we're going to cut out meat. We're going to cut out alcohol. If you smoke, try not smoking for a month. And we do these health challenges, and everybody can join that challenge wherever they want to work on themselves. And so what we do is we do carotid scans, and we take everybody's BMI, we take their fat body index, and we do a month-to-month challenge. And the reward for biggest winner or biggest loser, you might see like shows do that, is a cell phone, which is just, in some cases unheard that somebody could buy a cell phone. And so we do health challenges, and we've seen people, even in the workplace, they know that if they're there on work on Wednesday and that we're going to have like a potluck, somebody's going to have to think a little bit harder to make it vegetarian and plant-based. So even the workers that are not vegetarian, we do meatless Mondays. So for that day, they're going to be vegetarian. And I've seen people really take significant, taking their health to heart. I've seen that behavior change, incorporating more vegetables, and it definitely gives you more energy and fuels you in a way. But that's a whole other discussion. Yeah. I hope that I answered something. Yeah, so that's a fantastic. So we're making a cookbook. I don't know if you got wind of this, but yes, we're putting together a cookbook for our end of the year gift. And we are trying to also bridge the donor community. I don't like the word beneficiary, but the people that are on the receiving end of the spectrum is we're trying to collect recipes that the garden members have had for generations, that there might be their mothers, and they make a vegetarian twist to it. And then we're asking our donor community to put together a cookbook, and then everybody's going to have the cookbook, and it's a way that we can all try each other's vegetarian healthy eating cooking. So yes, I am on a quest for vegetarian recipes. Everybody please take note of that. We've got limited time. We're putting it together. Yeah.
Aside from the donations that you indicated in your presentation,
Yeah.
how are you funded? Do you have any other funding sources?
Yeah, so we are actually raising 300,000, and 200,000 of that is going to operations in the Philippines. 50 of that is going to grow the operations in Nepal, and 50 of that I'd like to apply right here in the Washington, D.C., Maryland area. Of that, and noted that we've been slowly growing. So in 2020, we had an operating budget of 50,000, then 2021, 100,000. So we've been kind of growing, about doubling each year, but we were able to operate 5 programs on a budget less than 50,000. And the reason is is part of our ethos is responsibility, fiscal responsibility to our donor community. So our donors are made up of private businesses, corporate partners, individual donations, church groups, Rotary groups. And we're also looking at government grants, and we're looking at all trying to diversify our funding.
Thank you. So what do you do in, like in Manila for vitamin B if you're encouraging people to be vegetarians? Here we take B supplements.
Yeah. So I take once a week, if not more, if I need it. I do a B complex, making sure that I have that B12. Even though we are eating, going vegetarian on Mondays, I don't think there's anyone in the organization that is vegan vegetarian like myself. So they get it through their diet still. Yeah. It hasn't been an issue just because nobody has fully embraced the vegetarian diet like myself. But good question, because B12 is a concern. You have to make sure that you get that. Yeah.
Last thing that occurs to me is, does your page provide a list of like vegetarian resources? I mean, I can think of like the film, The Game Changers. I can think of the books by Michael Pollan. There are all kinds of information out there, and maybe are you pointing people to it?
Yeah, very good question. And a very dear friend of mine and somebody who's helped shape the organization, who's in Spain, said you need resources. You need to put that all on the website. So we have finally, we have a social media person who is trying to update. You can access it now if you go to the website. But if there are books or things that you think should also be included, please email it and we'll add it to that list of resources. Yeah. No, it's very good. Can I just take one more second to thank Mr. Bob Schott for inviting me here today. And we do have something, it's 2023, we're planning ahead. We have 2023 planners for our monthly donors, but I'd like to give one to Bob and just express my gratitude for the opportunity. I've been really, thank you for inviting me here today. And I've been very much working on the ground, and I'm excited for opportunities to now talk about it. So thank you, everyone. Stay healthy.
Thank you, Elizabeth. You could stay up here. In recognition of your appearance before us at today's meeting, it's Trees for the Capital program. We're honoring you the certificate signifying our commitment to plant a tree in your honor to improve and beautify the environment.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you for coming
That's
today.
wonderful.
And
Really
she's
good
gonna
idea. Absolutely.